No.
Whatever
And
you think is your best side is.
Sitting on my best side.
Yeah.
There might be an issue with the light though.
Reflecting over on both spots?
Yeah, it's
Don't take
kind of like
it.
making it hard to see.
Getting glare.
It's getting
Wow.
The meeting hasn't even started.
Wow. You want Tony to sit here? Tony can sit here if you like. Then you get less glare.
Same problem, you know. When the actual furniture. It seems like, you know, we're actually. With that, you got a planning board, you can go chairs. They're using the electronic system. And that, it's like the common council expert. And everybody's using it. And his chair.
My chair was not like that.
That's
One of the rules.
when we say this, we gotta say it.
Back, one of the wheels was completely off.
No, two of them.
What are you getting?
We gotta say that. This is not just for common council, this is for the city hall. And the person that would tell us, a lot of committees use this stuff more than we use. We use it once a month.
That's why you don't do
Or but our, you know, when we get started.
We plan more than we use this as much as you. See?
I haven't heard
The
any.
planning board uses it office every week.
I think they use it more.
Yeah.
Yeah, other people that can.
I'm trying to get to.
HLPC, HACs in the chambers.
You can come here now.
This can be work here.
What's that? You gotta see here. I don't think so.
Tony,
That's me.
how did your team do at championships?
Our top boy came in fourth, and our top girl came in third, so.
Very
I'm
nice.
going next week to-
Congratulations.
On the road to States next week.
Where's that?
By Rome,
Oh.
in that area. Yeah. One day to yesterday, and it was working. And the girls make sneaks since 2000, so that's just like. This is obviously, this is. You know,
In the circle.
yeah. Oh, wait, for anybody else, or anyways. Virtual.
There's already one finance member who's on here, and I didn't hear from her,
Is that?
Michelle.
Oh,
I know Carl and Barbara aren't coming.
they are not.
They're not.
Wasn't that called?
He has to be at the HLPC for personal reasons, and I'm like,
That was. I did a double look and you said that, I said, yeah.
Well, we don't help either. You probably start, I think we should probably. Everybody get it?
Just to use, what's that?
Very interesting. So I also emailed these people, and I have all the others that John did. I only sent out the 2 for design. I'll send out the rest a little bit later.
There's also, the hard copies are already in. Is it already in the room?
They're already in there?
What is it?
Okay, never mind.
What's in here?
Hard copies, for every budget meeting, we have a
It's
folder.
in everybody's box.
Oh,
No, it's just on the table where this box usually sits. We can go
Oh,
through.
you'll get them.
I didn't see anything. Maybe that was a lucky.
One, okay.
That's the first budget. And, present.
Yeah. Three that are here.
No, well, you know, I was just thinking about it. I mean, technically, the house now, part of the first one.
Okay, so I'll put all those in, we're just do that at the end here.
Just a lot of it. Yeah, I should be talking today.
We're good.
The last year when we moved first, we started, so.
I think from your things, part of the first one. So.
I got the chairs for the
It's, once again, for me, it doesn't matter if you do this.
Doesn't say, very low.
Say common council, they have deliberation on the budget. This is the department that affects their spending, so.
Huh.
I don't remember doing right here.
You have to do it.
I'll be there anyway.
So I was like, that's why I also put it on the items, so.
All right.
It's absolutely.
We're beyond 5 minutes here, so, I wonder, first off, John, so we are taping, we're good to go, right, on this?
Yes.
Okay. We're taping, we have one new member of the council present, 2 or 3 more who will be able to watch the tape, as well as the community. So I was wondering if you could quickly give us an overview of the first several pages. Walk us through that, let folks know what's involved there. So that we know how to read it. And
Sure.
Before we do that, I just want to point out too, so Andrew gave out the budget variances. This is a quick way to see the difference between the actual budget, or I mean, the budget of the 2022 fiscal year, which is the year, and the comparison with the recommended budget. So this helps us see if a budget line has gone up or down in terms of the cost there. So it's a quick way to see some of the things that are really powerful change. Sometimes there's very good reasons for this. Sometimes, like you see regular pay here for the building department, it's in parentheses, so that means that the number has gone up. So if there's no parentheses, that means the number has gone down. Right?
I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah, the minutes here, right?
Variances.
Oh,
Wait a minute.
It's on the right-hand column, it's the variance.
Yeah, so the right-hand column is the variance, and if it's a negative column, the spending has gone up. That would be considered a negative variance. If it is a revenue account and has increased, that would be a positive number, it's a positive variance. So the negatives are, it's either a decrease in revenue or an increase in spending. And the positive would be a decrease in spending or an increase in revenue.
So we'll find out for sure, but that very first line under fire department, you see how there's $175,000. That might be for 2 new personnel in the fire department. So we're increasing that number by 2 people. This is all hypothetical, don't worry.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, keep on.
So, that could account, that's the kind, so those are the places that we want to ask questions. Usually that's where something big has changed. Of course, if you see some line here, some spending that you don't think we should continue to do, it may have no variance whatsoever, you should still bring that up because, it's in the budget, right? And so if you saw something that said $50,000, but there's just a line there, so for no variance, you don't think we need to get aprons with lace on them for the fire department, then, we could bring that up, right?
You would bring anything up?
You can't judge.
Even for
Yeah.
And then usually what we do if we see that there can be changes, we'll consolidate them and talk about them during wrap up session, because we could, tweak things here or there.
So that's a good thing to know. So these meetings that we're having, it's with each of the department heads. We can ask them questions. So that first question's going to be, why this big change? What's going on there? They'll let us know. Sometimes there's an issue. The mayor saw it one way, the department head saw it another way. We can intervene in those cases if we feel like it. Then at the very end of this whole process, we can sit down and say, here's the results. You know, we can make some decisions when we're in these particular meetings, but then we can also look at the whole budget at that last meeting. Budget review, okay?
And I'm gonna make one suggestion, and I know it's after the fact now, maybe moving forward. When we do the variance sheet, perhaps we could indicate on there contractual issues that are, you know, really out of our control. So we don't waste time asking questions about.
Like we can't really about life insurance and, you know, their benefits, there's nothing we can do about that, that's part of the contract. So we'll see.
Generally, the object code starts with 5.8, it's contractual. There's very few things that are in start with 5.8 that are non-contractual.
So what do you benefits?
They're also contractual.
There you go.
Yeah, so
Wait, start, so there would be OBJ under that.
OBJ, right, so if it starts with a 5.8, it's a benefit account and it's largely contractual. On this sheet, if you go down to, you know, 3/4 of the way down, yeah, fire retirement, that's a New York State retirement, hospital and medical, dental, life, optical, uniform, disability retirement, that is all contractual for the fire department. There is no ability to change those figures, I mean, those are just, in some cases they're estimates, some cases they're known amount, but they are contractual.
You said they start with 5.8.
5.8, and that will be the same with all departments. So we start with 5.8.
Thanks, Steve.
Good, that's a great idea, and.
About 5-1.
Well, the 5.1s, right, are, those are your pay items. That's a combination of, contractual, and in some cases it's discretionary, but once again, you know, you take like the fire department, they have a manning clause, they have a staffing clause. They have 10 firefighters that have to be on every shift, so by and large, the fire department staffing is contractual, right? It's just a matter of, you know, the one balance that we always try to strike with the fire department is, I don't know, maybe getting ahead of myself, is you have to have enough firefighters on to cover those 10 shifts. At a certain point, if your staffing is too low, the overtime required to fill those 10 shifts, those 10 positions outweighs the cost of the regular firefighter or having an additional firefighter on staff. So, but those are conversations we've had over a number of years. There's other factors involved, you know, firefighters that may be on disability at the time. So that can cause, you know, temporary staffing increases, but, you know, I'll let the chief talk about that when we get there.
So just real quick, John, starting on page 6.
Sure. Okay, so including the budget.
Just give a real quick overview for the new folks and people who are watching online. And
Sure.
know how the budget works.
Okay, so just real quick, a couple of the inserts. One was the mayor's budget message, which gives a 5,000 foot overview of the budget. Also included in the loose leaf was the capital plan, which are the capital items that were requests from the various departments in the city for items that they need to further their departmental objectives for 2023. This list is condensed from what was originally requested and prioritized. It's a rather large list this year, but it is much condensed over what was requested. So that's in there as well. And then starting with page 6. Page 6 is an overview of the city budget. We give a side-by-side of the last 3 years, the 2021 adopted budget, 22 adopted budget, and then 23 recommended. What this page does is give you high-level overview of the spending levels that we expect, the revenue levels that we expect. It actually shows you the mechanics of how we actually calculate what the taxes are. From a high level, really you back into the amount to be raised by taxes by taking your expenditures, you back out all your revenue that you project to collect, and then you decide on what your appropriation of fund balance is going to be, what amount of fund balance you wish to use, the city desires to use to balance the budget, and the net result is your tax levy. Obviously, there's some variables there, revenues, there's some estimates, there's estimates in the spending. There's some discretion in fund balance. The mayor this year is elected to, have the tax levy pretty similar to what it was in the prior year. He did lower it by $50,000. But it's relatively close to what's been there before. So the tax levy is, 1, 2, 3, 4, the sixth. You can see the city tax levy, it's about a third of the way down the page. And you can trace that year over year, and you'll see the 2021-22 numbers were 17,659,40. For 2023, it's 17,609,40. Take that down a few more lines. We do not have the county charges yet. So that some of these numbers will get filled in when we actually adopt the budget. But the tentative city tax rates are here. So for 2023, the recommended budget would be a tax rate of $881 for homestead and $1391 for non-homestead. That is down from $882 and $1414 respectively from 2022, which was down slightly from the prior year.
Can you explain homestead?
Homestead, non-homestead, is you're basically looking at what's deemed residential properties versus commercial type properties. A number of years ago, the city adopted a split tax rate of homestead, non-homestead. We're one of a number of municipalities that have that distinction. But that was set by the city a number of years ago. I think it's at least 20 years ago.
Good. So, and then page 7 is quick kind of overview summary.
Page 7 is an overview of the revenues by department. In some cases, you have police, fire, you have the larger departments spelled out individually, and then general government is essentially city hall, and then those revenues and expenses that cannot be attributable to a particular department. Things like workers' compensation insurance, where we get general bill, city liability insurance, debt service, items like that. So that's your general government revenue and expenses, sales tax revenues in general government, property tax revenues in general government. So you always see, the general government revenues far exceeds the spending. But once again, you have to break down into six cost areas there, and it gives you another breakdown of the tax levy, which is not too different from what was on page 6. I'm going to jump ahead to page 9. Page 9 is basically a breakdown of the spending rather than by department, by the nature of the activity. So, what's considered a general government type expense, a public safety expense. Public safety would include police and fire, health, transportation, which a lot of that would be Department of Public Works. You have culture and rec, which is parks and rec. Home and community, a lot of that is public works as well. That's trash services, refuse and recycling. And then you have debt service and transfers broken down. So this is just a breakdown, a high level breakdown of our spending by category. Going back to page 8, this is similar. This is a high level overview of our revenue by category. The first line item, real property taxes, that's our tax levy. The second item, non-property taxes, are property tax like revenues. They're essentially tax items that are not formally property taxes. So in that case, it's pilots, it's sales tax, it's items like that. Other local sources are generally departmental type revenues, fees that the department might collect. Parks and Rec has fees, Public Works has fees, Fire Department has some fees. And then you get into state aid and federal aid. The majority of that is grant revenue. And in terms of the state aid, what you have in there is a large number there is the 8 municipalities that the city gets every year from New York State. And that's voted on at state level, and every municipality is apportioned a determined amount. The city's apportionment hasn't changed in years. But that's, and this is generally accepted practice in how you would break down and display the budget. This would be common if you looked at other municipalities. These categories, and similar to how we also have to report to the state. Page 10 is another synopsis of our spending, rather than by department or by the nature of the category of the expense. This is a breakdown of the actual type of expense. So you have the 0.1 personal services, that's your payroll, your point, does everyone follow me there? If you want to look on it, I'm sorry, I took your budget. 0.2 capital is anything that would be equipment related. 0.4 contractual expenses is everything that is essentially not personal services, debt, or capital, or benefits. So that's everything from electricity to supplies, contractors, consultants, insurance. When I say insurance, like liability insurance, not medical insurance would be a benefit. So that's essentially the catch-all. That's everything else under the sun. Then you have employee benefits. The main costs there are the health insurance and the retiree costs for their state retirement system, police, fire, the ERS for City Hall and DPW Parks and Rec, building department, and then interfund transfers on this item here, that is primarily debt service. We actually transfer the money to a debt service fund, separate fund, and we make debt payments from that fund. And that's a requirement. Page 11 is a required calculation. It's your constitutional tax limit. New York State sets the amount of property tax that the municipality can collect in any given year. They have a couple calculations. They have the one that we talk about a lot is property tax cap, the 2% property tax cap that's been around for a number of years now. This is a cumulative calculation of the municipality is only allowed to levy 2% of the five-year average of its full assessed value. So this is driven by the assessed value of the city's properties, citywide, right? So as assessed values go up, our tax margin goes up, and there's a couple exclusions in here. And our constitutional tax margin has been increasing, as you can see in this calculation, because of two main factors. One is the assessed values in the city have grown substantially, and the other is we really haven't been raising taxes, right? So in fact, we've been lowering taxes. So you can see 2 years ago, the tax margin was under 16 million. It's over 22 million now. So statutorily, the city can raise taxes an additional 22 million and still be compliant with this. Not that we will, but that shows you we have a lot of room, right?
Sure.
We're less than 50% of our tax limit right now. We have a $17.6 million tax levy, and our true limit is almost $40 million. Okay. Page 12 is required debt service budget. That essentially shows the monies going out to the debt service fund from the general fund for debt service, and the money's coming into the debt service fund from the general fund, and the money's going out to pay the underlying debt, principal and interest payments.
They should balance out.
They balance out, yeah. So what goes in, what goes out. If there are, in this case, we have some monies available in the debt service fund that can be used for debt service. Could be excess proceeds from borrowings, potentially grant reimbursements that have come in for something that had been borrowed. In this case, we have funds that are available to make debt service payments, so that would reduce the transfer from the general fund. But once again, it does have a balance. Page 13 is our debt limit calculation summary. Once again, there's a constitutional limit on what a municipality can borrow. That number is 7% of the 5-year average of the taxable assessed full value. And in this case, it's the main drivers are the amount of debt that we take out and the assessed value. This number has been creeping up over a few years. It's at 30% now, it's at 25% a few years ago, so it's been gradually creeping up. It's really a factor of just a large number of projects that we have ongoing right now. So, you know, from a budgetary standpoint, we can support the payments. But you will see some fluctuation in this number here, you know, primarily by, you know, the number of projects we have ongoing at any point in time, and, you know, what's happening with the SSIs in the city. And that's it. And then, the departments are all listed individually. If you go back to the table of contents, there's a summarized table of contents, so it tells you where to find each one of these pages. And the departmental budgets are online here. They're on this broken down. You can see this right in my budget, right? General government, page 15. Starting there is really all your city hall departments that we talked about. And since some of the other cost areas that can be attributed to other departments. Then you have police, fire, building, DPW rec, and then the sewer fund. Sewer fund budget, which is funded by the sewer tax rate, or sewer rate, I shouldn't say tax rate, the sewer user fee. And finally, the last two pages of the budget are, we have an allocated salary schedule and a grant reimbursement detail. So the allocated salary schedule on page 180, we put this in a number of years ago for disclosure purposes, any position that is allocated to more than one department, this helps the user of the budget to calculate what that person's actual full salary is. So anyone who's allocated between more than one department will be listed here. And then the next page, grant reimbursement detail, outlines grant reimbursements by employees. So.
Great, thank you for that. Good. So then we'll move on to, thank you for your patience, Chief, sorry. I want to make sure that, you know, we're all at the same foundation here, since we've got several new members of the council. I should have thought about this as kind of like a tutorial before, but, so I appreciate your patience, speaking with you, thank you.
And can I mention, Randy, if anyone has any other questions on the mechanics of the budget, feel free to call me, reach out to me, stop by my office, I am available too, so.
We might get jealous of your camera.
Well, I like this idea, so perhaps next year I'll just plan on having this. So that
Yeah.
Department has know they're on the first meeting, then we'll get the overview.
Good idea. All right, and so then, so we go to page 93 of the budget. This is for the fire department. And so just to clarify here, you see several columns. And basically what the variance does is it takes two of those columns and then shows us the difference, either positive or negative. So it's the 2022 original budget and 2023 recommended budget, right? So those are two of the columns you see there. And then of course, in the left-hand column, you see the various lines which show what things are being paid for, what the amounts are that have been paid in the past, or being suggested now. And also, you want to note that we also list every position. So on page 97, you see the actual people in the fire department and what they, you know, their title, their step, their regular pay, et cetera, et cetera. So you can get a fine-grained sense of what goes into certainly all the personnel elements here. All right. Any questions in before we get going? Okay. Chief, what do you see here? What stands out for you? Good things, bad things?
Well, what stands out is that we've increased by one member, and that member's salary is refundable through a grant. So that is the ambulance driver. So that's under a grant for 1 year. So that pretty much starts right off. The other ones are basically all contractual on the salaries. The longevity increase in longevities, that, you know, that's a major bump. And going down through it, the only thing, the 211 really increased from previous to $7,000 increase. We were only anticipating what the expenditures are going to be for the ambulance. Now, part of those expenditures will be covered under the grant, but I'm using those expenditures right now, 2022, to purchase stuff to get the bus certified by the end of this month.
I'm sorry, did you say 211?
Yes.
You said that increased? No, I think it's wrong. Do you guys-
increased by 7,000.
Right here, this,
Oh, really, you're looking at the sheet.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha, thank you. All right, I'm good.
Yeah, there's some numbers that you see in there that were from, what allocated from the grant, is already put into a line item. We just haven't taken out yet for this year.
So, okay, I'm sorry, can I just ask John a question? So how do you record, like, because I was looking at the actual budget, looking at 211, how does that correlate with this?
Okay, so in terms of the numbers or the,
No, just like, so if I'm, so I don't get confused again, so if I'm looking at
Oh,
these
okay.
numbers.
ignore, so on this page, the five is dropped on the budget. So like this is 101 regular pay, this is 101 here, so the 5 is dropped
Uh-huh.
on the printed budget. So like with the equipment where it says 211, just drop the
Yeah.
5, that's 211, and 211 here other equipment.
Sure.
Yeah, when we export this out of our accounting software, the formal account number in our accounting software, it starts with 5.
That's why I'm confused.
So we're comparing the recommended budget we're comparing adopted budget to recommended budget. We're not comparing to the revised budget.
Why is there such a difference with the revised budget?
The revised budget would be, it would take the original budget plus and minus any budgetary transfers approved by the common council. So, some of that's as you get closer to the end of the year, it could be year-end transfers. It could be a one-time grant where they've requested an increase in spending, and there's also an increase in the grant revenue. I think it's just one of those things that you can look at every, you kind of got to look at the total package. I think the best way to look at it is going from the original from last year to the recommended this year, because that's truly what you're changing your adopted budget by. Like if you went with these recommended numbers, that is what you are changing the adopted budget by. I would use the printed budget in all cases as a reference. You know, if you see the budget modification was high, you know, it changed a lot from the original budget that was adopted for 2022, could raise the question, why did we do that? So spending significantly higher than what we adopted last year, why haven't we increased the budget for this year? Those are good questions. So in a lot of cases, there's reasons why.
I'll tell them reasons.
Yeah.
The large increase is due to the 56,000 that we got from Senator Hitchie. That came out, that comes out of the 211. That's where that went into. And a portion of the grant for the ambulance went into 211 to pay stuff out of 211. So that's why you have that increase, that large increase.
But we can also look then at 103, which is overtime pay. And so what you can see there, the actual amount was 356,000. You see that the 2022 budget accounted or suggested 250,000. The revised budget says basically 280,000. So you can see there was a definite rethinking there. So you've got the actual number, you see these other numbers increasing. So the chief requested 300,000, but in negotiations or further discussion, mayor's budget comes out with a recommended 350,000. So that would be a question to ask the chief, what's going on with overtime?
Well, so my question would be, you know, looking at the pay scale of the employees, would it be more cost effective to hire another employee versus, because I mean, you're looking at, you know, you got a new position, grade 2, which regular pay is just over 57. And, you know what I mean, we were talking about earlier that yes, it's mandated that you have 10 people on it every single time. I'm just curious if it would be more beneficial for you and the budget to hire another employee.
The 57,000.
Yeah.
Then add on, correct me if I'm wrong, John, 25,000 for health insurance and benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
So
I mean,
that's-
So if I'm looking all the way across, that would be what, 111, no, let's say 112,000?
right.
If we go all the way across to their total?
Right. for
So,
one individual.
yeah, so really the fact that when you're considering overtime versus regular pay, right? The benefits, when you add in the benefits are generally around 50% or more of what the actual pay is, right? So, you know, dollar for dollar, you have to be saving significantly more than dollar for dollar on overtime for that, you know, for that financially to make sense. Another factor with the fire department that's variable is, you've had some people who are out, one is leaving, right?
Well,
So,
we just got one, just got this 207 disability retirement, he just got that. That position's been covered for all 2022.
with the original 21.
So now there's, you know, we're gonna be hiring someone to fill, we did hire somebody to fill that position. That individual has been hired, so, you know, it's that, you got the COVID, where you mandated, you get COVID, instead of one day, you're out sick, you're out two 24-hour shifts.
Sure.
Because of, with the mandates in New York State.
Okay, again, I was thinking
No,
about that burnout, you know what I mean? Like, if
Those are good
everyone's
questions.
working a ton of overtime,
Now,
maybe it would be cost effective to bring someone else on
right,
for them. And then they're,
No, we're into John, so those are good questions.
Yeah, and these are debates that we have internally when we're formulating a budget.
we can do this.
Yeah, and we, you know, we talk about that. I think what's happened this year in terms of short-term, people being out has been more significant than what we've seen before. So that's been driving, I mean, the current year overtime's pretty high. I think the staffing level will get back unless there's others that go out. But, you know, the mayor did make an attempt to try to raise the overtime at $100,000 in the budget. So, will it be enough? You know, we don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah,
It
right.
could still be short. It just depends upon staffing and what happens with personnel. Does everyone come back? Are they there? Does anyone go out? You know, like, Chief said, when, you know, they've had one firefighter who's been out for over a year and, you know, that position's just been covered with overtime the whole time. So now that position will be able to be filled at no cost to the budget because that position's budgeted. But now it'll reduce the overtime. So.
if you're happy.
Always take more.
Yeah, we're never happy
Yeah.
down there, but, you know, and it's, what John says is absolutely true, and in fact, now, you know, part of that can be covered under our collecting salary through the insurance. That would result to a 7A.
I just have a couple of questions.
All right, go ahead. Yep.
And physical exams, chief, 450, you're on like 10,000.
Yes,
Well, I think it's, yeah. Can you, is that this more, it costs more now?
no, the fire department wasn't doing an NFPA physical, they're doing OSHA physical.
Okay.
Two different physicals.
Yeah.
NFPA physical entails x-rays besides the blood drawn and all the other stuff, EKGs and so forth. So that's what bumped it up. So
Okay.
now the city's fire service is compliant to the NFPA, which is, you know, a regulatory, it's regulation, not OSHA's a law.
Yeah.
So yeah, the NFPA is actually a better physical for the individual.
And my other thing, I got a couple more here as I'm breaking this down, is minor equipment is going up by, I go put your roundings off around another 10,000.
Can you give numbers?
479, I'm sorry.
479. Yeah, it's the EM ones.
The ambulance, okay.
It's the EM ones I got. And I'm just, you know, and these are all just educated numbers, but we're still, until we're in the business for a year. So by the end of 2023, it should all shake out what is it going to cost to run the ambulance.
And I just had this thing, and I'm gonna throw this out, this is on the fire department, you know, this will cost, and I'm gonna say this to most of the major departments. And whenever and wherever and whenever, and can we do what we can do, be diligent to conserve fuel? And as much as possible, that fuel charges, and I mean, across the board, not just the fire department. You know, the fuel is going up, so I'm just gonna say that to all and departments, major departments, that when possible, can we just make sure we're conscious of that fuel, you know, the fuel costs, the fuel kills. And then, you know, sometimes you'll be able to, sometimes you won't, but I'm just gonna say that across the board, but not just the fire department, the police department, but DPW. I mean, it's, you know, that's a driving cost that's going up and up. And if we can do, wherever we can do to save fuel on a daily basis would be helpful.
Turn off the engines when you're going downhill.
Now, we've already addressed that.
Yeah.
Back when fuel really jumped up, you know, and putting this like, you know, just the deputy chief's cars, the only one who go out for, they forgot something, whatever, they gotta go get, they have to buy food, deputy
Okay.
chief goes out and gets it.
Okay.
There's no more shopping excursions, you
Taking the engine out.
know, stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's no more going for, if they're going for breakfast someplace. You just walk around the corner for walking down the hill here, or you.
Okay.
And I noticed that you have on the capital projects, which so I'm jumping a little bit, you're
Yeah.
asking for a couple hybrids. Do you have hybrids now? Right, is that you or is it
Yeah,
maybe Steve?
that's correct.
The building?
No,
No, that's-
Now, when the mayor asked us to look into the capital project, look for a hybrid SUV, the amount of equipment we carry in the back of our SUV, there isn't an SUV out there to carry that stuff. The amount of stuff that we have back there,
so you,
just isn't out there.
it says 2 hybrid full-size SUVs for fire.
He would like us to. He would like us to, we have done our research on it.
That's just that.
For the amount of stuff we have in the back of our cars, it's all three, it's meaning that the SUVs we have, one SUV is filled with all ropes, so we can go, if we have an incident, the SUV can go to that incident, and I have 5 people that can jump off the top of the cliff with their own ropes and their own packages and rappel down simultaneously if they want to do it. I mean, that vehicle is packed with stuff, and that's the vehicle that goes up the mountain to Green County under mutual aid, which we're in the agreement with Green County to go up there. That's one of the ones that get replaced. It's one of the older ones. But all the chief vehicles out there, you have the equipment that you firefighter can get dressed, they can grab an extinguisher, they can grab a trauma bag, they can grab an AED defibrillator. All the vehicles have the same amount of equipment. And medical equipment, pretty much the same amount of medical equipment that the engine has. And what you will see, you know, at times when we're in a crisis mode in Kingston where we have multiple just calls going every which way, you'll see an SUV going to the medical call. But there is no Chinese fire drill downstairs on the apparatus floor trying to put equipment on there to go to the call. They just jump in the car and they go. I just throw my keys to them and say, go. Everybody knows there's a full trauma bag in the back. You know, that they start doing EMS. The same thing with the assistant chief's car, and the same thing with car 3. And if there's an air packet, the air pack's in the back of the cars. You know, it's an emergency vehicle, which we will respond over occasion of a year. We'll respond multiple times throughout the city.
So you can't find hybrids, so, I'm sorry. Go on, Steve.
No. Actually, I guess just out of curiosity, is the amount of equipment that you keep in a vehicle dictated by code or law, or is just your discretion?
Now, this, the trauma bag, it's what is best, like, what is best out there, what is needed out there. Meaning that they all have the Narcan on, they all have drugs on they have a bee sting. You know, we shoot epi, we have needles, we have heparin on, all of them have that, so there's nothing more than, you have 3 engines out, the truck's out, and you get another call. And it's for, you know, child with a bee sting, having an allergic reaction. You know, there's nothing more than me, and I'll take somebody else, jump in the car and go.
Okay, so it just
Because I
comes
know
from,
it, you know, we know it's in the back.
just from experience on the job, basically, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, 2 things, one's maybe not related to this, but you were explaining earlier that the physicals, one was OSHA, and then you're switched over to the other.
Yeah.
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 Just a general question, is that something that you can hook up with other departments around and like maybe globally get a contract where it's a little cheaper? Like, and I'm thinking of this because at my job, they tied their health insurance in with other school districts in Dutchess County, and they got a group discount where instead of this, you know, this school having a price, this school having a price, because they all grouped together, it went down. And I'm just wondering if other fire departments in the area, volunteer or whatever, do have to participate in that, if there would be something that everyone could do cumulatively to possibly reduce that cost?
The only other fire department I know in the area that does an NFPA physical is Arlington.
Okay.
OSHA's mandate, that's the law, you have to
Yeah.
have it, but that's a bare minimum.
Mhm.
You know, it's NFPA physical, you have to do the Stairmaster
Oh,
with a weighted vest on, 50-pound weighted vest.
You do it.
And you have a doctor with a set of vitals beforehand, set of vitals afterhand.
Okay.
You know, it's an X-ray, it goes well beyond an OSHA physical.
Mhm.
And most departments, you know, financially, volunteer departments, you know, they don't have that to do an NFPA physical versus an OSHA. We blood work, which the union, we've always been in agreement with the union with our blood work we have done, we do it through our own insurance, through the insurance carrier. So, you know, that's a separate cost, what's covered. So, but
And the final question that I have is, based off of the expenses, have we provided you enough money for everyone to have the proper equipment that they need to do their job safely?
yes,
Okay, sorry, but that is my number one concern for your guys.
$20,000 more.
it's,
I appreciate your honesty.
No,
I will not.
Safety is,
no,
you know-
Safety's not one concern me, and you'll get the best equipment I can buy for that.
Good, and so if that's in here, then I'm happy.
Yeah, no, but it's,
Okay.
you get the best.
Steve, I'm just going back to, you said that you couldn't find a hydrant, so what are we gonna do with the capital plan? Are you gonna try to just get one regular vehicle or?
No, that expenditure, that 150 will get through.
Let's go get two, okay, all right. Okay, so you can do it as well.
It is something that we should let the rest of the council know, but it's not, they're not gonna be hybrid, so they're definitely not gonna be hybrid.
We haven't been able to find one yet.
Are you gonna still try to
Thank you
get
for
two
trying.
with that price, and still try to get two?
But
Yeah, no, we will get two with that price.
Another thing is, in the revenue side, 1589. It's not up, it's only up about $5,000, but what's other fire department income? Is that where we training?
What is
Page
it?
94, 1589. Item 59, item 1589
For income.
for revenue. I'm gonna ask you one other question in there. Yeah, revenues, first line, other fire department income. There's not a lot, I just was just curious for myself, what is this coming from?
Other income, the income that we generate is obviously electrical permits.
Okay,
The other stuff is what we collect from going to hazardous material calls, we bill them.
okay,
And then that comes in. You have the community training, which they decided, the person does not want any recognition to be tried, but we just taught the rec department CPR, and they just had an employee from the rec department who came outside this building, and there's somebody on the ground. And he performed CPR on the individual, you know, no more than a couple months from receiving this training
okay.
that we gave to the rec department. But it comes from community training. We charge for that. Anything else, maybe payments for throughway assistance, we bill them. The majority of it is going to be from hazmat.
And that's what my next question was, the hazmat. How many, do you know how many mutual aid calls this year so far, hazmat?
I don't have a rough, 8 to 10.
Okay, all right. And we're seeing that's, because that's in here, it'll go up another 10K from last year, so.
That's to, that's 20, you're talking to 25,000?
Yeah, it's going to,
Yeah, that's to cover all the special teams to defer some of the cost of keeping us trained in those. Because we do confined space, we do ice rescue, we do high angle rope rescue, we do hazmat. You know, we are basically emergency services for the county for these special teams.
okay.
So the county has provided us with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, but we have to keep our training up to that level. This year, we accomplished a lot of the training this year, so now we have on duty anytime. Again, I can send 5 people to go jump off the cliff. They can go up to the bridge and all jump off the bridge together. There's that much equipment in that SUV for them to do it safely. And same thing with hazmat, like I said, hazmat out right away, and have people that are trained in hazardous materials, you go to work immediately. Before we had to piecemeal. We already had to piecemeal it. So we finally just bit the bullet this year and no more piecemealing. On-duty personnel, out of 10 of them, we can immediately send them right out. Or in the city, within the city. So we have any of the college crew again, you know, unfortunately, the incident up in Upper Hasbro. That evening, we could have 5 lines go over the edge immediately. And we bring our trailer with us, and we can have another 5 lines go over the edge. We have 10 people down there if we want. And all each have their own line, their own rope. So the city, you know, I can say that as far as special ops go for the city, we are well prepared now.
Okay.
And you don't have to.
Any other questions?
No.
I want to add, Chief, I appreciate that you all are putting up on social media, the things you all do. I think it's really effective. First, I mean, already we're very proud of the work that you do, but I think it really helps other people see, it helps citizens at large see that you are at work and encounters, because every once in a while we hear something, they send out 2 trucks. And when they see those things, it helps explain that. It kind of reduces sometimes people's complaint portion.
No, that was one of my goals since I took over, you know, and just getting out there into the public and just past Halloween up on Clifton Avenue, they gave out over 400 pieces of candy.
One of my piano students went to it and was
Did they?
raving about it.
Yeah, but one of the parents told the engine, you know, the engine 1 was up there, and one of the parents asked him, you must have drawn the short straw because you're stuck out here giving out Halloween candy. And, you know, they turned to him and said, oh, no, we didn't draw the short straw. All 10 people, all 10 firefighters around duty are out. So unfortunately, we can only be in 4 spots at one time in the city. It has multiple spots, so we kind of, you know, pick where we think is going to be most beneficial. And actually, Midtown, we were very disappointed with the turnout in Midtown.
Well, Ward 7 and Clifton Avenue, appreciate it.
That's it. See, they brought candy from Midtown up to that,
Yeah.
so they're running low on
Wait, how
it.
much did you get?
I was gonna say, did you get it?
My house might have been passed.
But no, we get as much as we can out there.
All right, so there are no more questions, I believe, so I thank you for coming out. Thanks again for your patience at the start of the meeting.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Chief.
Yep.
All right. All right, Steve. From one safety to another.
All right, Steve, how much candy did you hand out? That's a tough act to follow there.
This is page 98, for folks following along in the big budget. And nothing on that couple?
No.
We're fine with vehicles, and actually, we have 2 on order. I think we
We're gonna be dealing with some of that surpluses down there. Oh, wow.
I'm sorry.
There's some of that surplus, those cars down there.
There's only two surplus vehicles, one from building safety, one from fire department. They just put there.
Man, I came down, and it was a while ago, I came down there, I was like, wait a minute, car business? You see all those- so
Well,
many vehicles there.
They had, the fire department had a couple vehicles there. They were trying new, equipment on.
Oh, okay.
They were destroying them. Yeah, so we don't have any capital requests. No.
Anything big, Steve, as Randy would say to you, that stands out in this thing here?
Yeah, well, you're gonna see on, personal services line, regular pay, there's a large increase of 55,000. But it's actually not an increase, it's, we took the plumbing line 3621 and incorporated it into 3020. Just makes things easier for us, and I think comptroller's office and stuff didn't kind of need to be standalone anymore. So that's why you have the, that increase in that line.
And this would fall from a sidekick, that's John. And I was gonna bring that up, John. It seems like every year, budget, we get all these different things that one item is moved to a different department, et cetera, et cetera. It's always so, it always makes it so confusing. I guess, you know, you had that last page to say, okay, you know, you got this one is getting 0.90 from here and 0.90 from there. It's like, I don't know why every year we have all these.
Which one are you talking about? Which?
Well, I'm just saying here, like this year the plumbing goes down to asterisk 3621 moved to 3620.
This was actually, you're gonna see this, this was the largest effort to move things around
Okay.
in all the years I've been here, so brace yourself. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
typically, Tony, we don't move too much. This year, there was a concerted effort to, on a long-term basis, to consolidate the budget a little bit. The mayor and I talked about how voluminous the budget is. We wanted it easier for the users to read. We talked about how can we do that? You know, because we have, like, you know, you take the building department, and then you have plumbing, you have a separate, separate sheet for plumbing that's one, right? You know, it's a small thing, right? So what we did is we looked at the New York State Chart of Accounts and how we report to the Controller's Office on an annual basis. And what I can tell you is over the years, from budgets long before I got here, somebody decided that, okay, we're gonna add a new function. Let's add a page in the budget. Let's add another page in the budget. So what I have to do is for our reporting to New York State, I have to consolidate a lot of these individual pages to report to New York State. So we decided to use the model that the state provides to try to consolidate some of these pages. So you'll see there's some consolidations in public works. They probably have the most expensive ones where we've consolidated refuse and recycling and some other factors that for New York State reporting, they want it all consolidated. We have to consolidate that. So but we've over time, we've just kind of ad hoc, just added pages that really probably should have been grouped together. So what I did is when we worked on these worksheets and in the budget, we tried to make notes as to how we did it. So, you know, if you saw numbers last year and you saw 0 this year, we tried to walk you through what happened. But that's an effort that was pretty large this year.
So next year going forward should be pretty.
Right. After this year, it should be just, you know, minor things here and there. But what you'll see in the budget this year is you'll see still the old department and the new department. And over time, as like that data falls off the budget, you'll just see the new department that we move things to.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So hopefully the end result, Tony, is that there'll be less pages in the budget. That should be easier for you to use. That was the goal.
Yeah, this is gonna be material.
Yeah.
I mean, my only thing is jumping right down to revenue, Steve. I mean, I don't see really much else that you explained to listening that, 2555, and I have here building and, what is it, building water permit or
Alteration?
alteration permit fees? How many, and you might have to get that, how many did you have this year of that? Because it looks like you guys are steadfast with that. It looks like it went up like, no, it's the same, right? You guys requested 652,000, that you got recommended 662,000, right? And so do you know how many you're doing this year that, you know, it's jumped $10,000 more than what you requested?
You're talking in terms of actual permit numbers, or are you talking in terms of revenue generated from?
Yeah, no, I guess it says again, building and alteration permit fees. So, yeah, how many is that? Is that a number that tells you how many that you gave out for that? Can you explain what that is? Building alteration, it says somebody wants to change something to the outside of the building or inside, is that what that is?
Right, so that could be permit fees for anything, in addition to new building, alterations to building, decks, roofs, any of those, types of items.
2 fees for the reason being says, because, you know, where is it at right now? And maybe John has that number that you're saying that next year, you're gonna be able to generate $10,000, right?
Right,
So you recommend it's $10,000 less, but then it looks like you're saying you can hit, that you're gonna hit that same target that you got budget for in 2022.
right. So the numbers on here are what I consider conservative.
Okay, yeah. Mhm.
Projections. We're gonna exceed our projected budget for this year, so we'll be over the 676,000 that was projected. We're gonna be quite a bit over, I believe. My estimate is with our re-levy fees, I think, I'm estimating us to probably be in the $800,000.
Oh, wow, that's a big difference.
Which is, that's a huge pickup from where we were.
So you break it down, this year, you're gonna be 800,000.
Yes.
But that includes you said the outstanding levy fees, so that's sort of fines.
Including everything, yeah.
That includes everything.
So that's the fines and when people get the permits.
Correct.
Yeah.
See, that's a big jump. Are you gonna do that with your current manpower?
I'm gonna do that with the current manpower, yes.
Yeah.
We didn't really raise what our projection for next year by much because we are seeing a little bit of slowdown in, particularly, I think a good indicator for us is how many property searches we're seeing. So people selling homes. And that number is starting to go down a little bit. So I didn't want to be too aggressive in our projection for next year. But it could be a lot more if a number of these large projects that are, winding their way through the process come through and actually obtain building permits. But we don't know if that's happening. We've been waiting on it keeps going for 2.5 years to go, or 2 years. That's not very well, from the building department standpoint.
I saw Brad George with a shovel over there.
Don't get that going. And that's my other part to that was it new housing development, which equals new license and permit fees, so that all coincides. Yeah, with this new developments, like you said, with Delaware Avenue, with our agreement now with, what's gonna happen. No, that wouldn't fall to you. I was ready to say quality, and that's the town of Worcester. Yeah. So, all right, great. That's 800,000. That's great.
All right, so I see too, you've got a vacancy. Is that,
I do.
Built in?
That's posted right now. So hopefully next Friday we'll have a handful of applicants. There's a reason why this hasn't been filled to date. We did move some staff through retirements this year, and we were kind of just waiting to see how we wanted to shape that position, whether or not we were going to need to modify the position title based on who was leaving and who was coming.
Oh,
Yeah, first one.
oh, great. All right. So you said who was there?
I'm sorry.
Who was in that building inspector?
Well, that was actually Ashdown's position.
Okay.
And, again, we just didn't fill it yet because we added a couple of new employees earlier in the year.
Okay.
And we thought we were going to have someone else leaving, so we were going to try and modify the position to what we kind of needed going forward a little bit better. So that's why I haven't been filled yet.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
I know the workload of building safety has kind of exploded in a way since my 5 years or however long it's been. And there, besides obviously filling that vacancy, there's no additional staff. you're able to maintain with this stuff?
Well, I think when, there's, I think projected 600 or 700 new units to come online in the next year or two. I think when that happens, we may have to revisit staffing. But right now, I think we're in a good position, especially once we fill this last position. I think we're in good shape for now. But we don't have any space for any new staff after this person in our office. There's no room for anyone else to come. Probably sit them in the chair in that corner, yeah. We don't have any space.
We put it in the building down at the bottom of Broadway.
Yeah.
Brand new offices there.
That was proposed and we thought about it, but there's no parking and we have city vehicles, perfect vehicles.
Oh, yeah. Taking away parking downtown, probably not. Be like blocking.
So because we've talked about a lot, you know, the increase of your staff, like their responsibilities and their workload. One of the things that I just thought about with everyone outside is a lot of people, we heard, you know, the apartments aren't in the greatest conditions. You know, how can we tackle that problem of getting some of these places, you know, doing, and I don't know your procedure for doing things, but like, you know, surprise inspections or, you know, hey, we've received a lot of complaints because if you talk to some of the tenants out there or in general, they're, you know, 70-80% of them are saying, you know, I don't even, there's mold everywhere. Like, I don't even know how this place is still standing. So, you know, with the staff that you have now are they going to be too shoestring to be able to make those inspections and look at those complaints that we're getting?
Right. All the complaints that are issued, are coming to our office are looked at and either have been taken care of or are in the process and stuff.
Okay.
Every complaint that comes through our office is we look at. It's tracked, we look at, and you know, obviously we do our best to take care of the problems and issues. But there are some that are more difficult than others that take a lot longer to deal with.
Mhm.
We end up having to take someone, issue an appearance ticket, take them to court. But, you know, we're not talking about someone calling us with a complaint and us taking care of it in that week or the next week and stuff. We're months down the road if we have to take someone to court. By the time when someone submits a complaint to us, most of the time they have 30 days to rectify that complaint. If it isn't taken care of in that time frame, then fees begin to be issued and we go back and do re-inspections. If it's still not taken care of after a number of fees, then we do paperwork and send it to Corporation Council to send them, to take them to court. So it does take a little while if the property owner is kind of recalcitrant in that.
Mhm. So, and again, I could be way overstepping on the so bear with me. You know, we talked about earlier, you mentioned earlier the possibility of that 662 number for the building and permit fees, that being blown out of the water. Would it be beneficial to your staff and would it help to possibly bring on a part-time inspector to help with that? Or it really just doesn't matter, it's just, you know, whether it's one or two, it's still gonna take that length of time and to be able to hit all of them?
More staff is always.
Just needs a bigger building to go along with it.
Yeah, we need a little bit more space, but more staff is always welcome, and we can always do more and faster if we have more staff. I think this year's been little bit challenging because we did lose a number of staff and brought in new staff, that it takes about 6 months, once you have that staff, to get them trained fully. So they haven't really completed the number of inspections that, like, next year they will be able to complete, because they're not going through state code certification training.
And when they go out for the beginning, do they have to go with another person?
Absolutely.
So when that is over, in the sense of having two, you just have the one, which I imagine would be very helpful.
Right. Okay. To put it in terms of kind of numbers, revenue generation, probably before COVID, we probably would do about $225,000 in inspection fees per year. When COVID happened, obviously, we weren't going out into as many properties, and a lot of property owners weren't allowing us to come in. So it really dropped off quite a bit. This year, we'll probably get back up to about 190,000 in inspection fees, but next year we should be back to kind of normal. So we'll see a lot more inspections completed. I know a lot of the larger housing complexes, we have been getting a number of complaints and stuff from. So I think we're building a good relationship with some of the new property owners and stuff, and getting more done. And we're working with the organizations that are being created and stuff too. So, and kind of educating them on the proper process to submit their complaints and stuff, just because we get calls for, my tub is, running slow. Yeah. They kind of have to give the property, managers an opportunity to take care of the complaint prior to submitting it. But
Steve, I think we're all, I know how we're finding it.
Well, I mean, it's all, but
Do you talk to IT occasionally, to see if there's any kind of software that could help you out?
Well, we did. We upgraded our municipal software this year. I think in June we got the new upgrade. There's some challenges to it, and some things that still have to be worked through. So there's still more training, ongoing training and stuff. Like, actually, one of the budget numbers for next year is additional money in there for more training, because we're going to be moving towards online permitting, 100% online permitting. So we'll have to have software assistance.
Right? No help.
Come on, John. I was just gonna comment, just kind of for those of you who haven't been here for a number of years. And even those of you who don't look at the budget constantly, like some of us do, like Steve looks at the budget. The mayor and common council, I think, over the last few years have done a really good job of providing the building department with additional resources. Maybe not everything, but, obviously there's been a lot of requirements thrust upon the building department. It's required a lot of staffing additions, software additions. If you look back, I mean, you want to humor yourself, look back at a budget from 4 years ago. We've doubled the staff of that department in that time frame. Full-time staff, we've gone from 6 to 12 full-time. I think this is the one year where you're not seeing that growth in staff, but it may not be the end of it, like Steve said. I mean, there's more requirements coming down the pipe, but I think you passed some budgets that really have provide additional funding and resources for the building department, so.
Well, I think we
Just-
also gave them a few more tasks to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm
So,
saying. That's in line with those additional requirements. The council has helped fund staffing, software, things of that nature, so.
And that's what I was really gonna say, Zach. And I think we need to be proactive and start having those discussions with the mayor, whatever. about where you're gonna have to build onto that existing building down there, or it's gonna have to be some changes to apartments. And and I can only see in the future, I can only see having more things gonna be on. And, you know, with these upcoming projects and stuff, and as you said, you're full to the max, you can't put anybody. So you're gonna fill that vacant there and vacancy, and which is gonna make you full max. As John was saying, you went from 6 to 12 in the same. Pretty quick. In the same department, in the same building. You haven't changed the building. And now we're gonna do it add on. And I think we need to start having those discussions, and you and whoever else may, about, do we change departments? What's the department that might be able to utilize the building safety area in what it is now? And is there something in City Hall and apartment that you guys can utilize and have some potential place for growth? I'm not sure if that is in City Hall, and that, you know, we need to talk about this now, because there's no sense of saying, you know, maybe next year and saying, well, we need another inspector. We got no place to put the person. And so I think we need to start either discussing building onto your existing building, you know, and moving it out towards the parking lot, or thinking about, is there the place in the City Hall where building safety can go, and maybe another department or two departments can go down and utilize where building safety currently is. Because I
Maybe City Hall, right?
Years ago, I think before Steve was, at one point, building safety was in City Hall. You know, I'm sure we'll talk about this at some point too, with, you know, even when we get into the city clerk's budget and the visitor center, and, you know, there's space there, but, you know, you have a number of departments, Steve, you know, the building department's right, has experienced the most rapid growth, but the engineering department has grown as well. They're pretty much at their seams. There's some other departments that have grown that really can't increase size because of the staffing, right? So, or because the, you know, the building, you know, envelope of where it's at.
If they do expand, just have to get permits.
All right, any other questions?
No. Should have left.
And Steve,
All right, thank you.
great guys, keep on doing great work down there.
There has been more for building safety, so when I planned, I didn't have the budget yet, so, yeah, this was the simplest budget brought to us in a while.
It was, yeah, there wasn't a lot of changes and stuff.
Well, if you look at the net, the variance year over year is like $40,000. It's not bad.
And that's pretty close, more than
What?
it's a negative.
Yeah, well, yeah, right, but it's a, you know.
I'm calling this meeting to order. Andrew, you can turn that on.
Yeah.
Man, good job. So this is these are